What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time dropping in, Tommy Kentner here. Today we got Form Driven Media, Roberto.
Yep. And today we're going to be talking about GTRs and especially R35 GTRs.
Yep.
Tommy has had one and he's worked on a few, so he's pretty experienced about them.
Yep.
Talk about the new one.
Yes, they just released at the Tokyo Auto Show the 2024 GTR. So I've been seeing a lot of memes on it.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, first sight of it, I didn't really like it, but I've seen another video that I think it actually looks good. They changed just, it's pretty much a facelift / little body kit. That, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the whole car market has changed from what it was, and now, like, they see the writing on the wall. So you can't totally revamp and make a new product because you're not going to have time to recoup the investment because there's just not enough time with gas-powered cars.
I think that's the big issue that everybody's kind of complaining because it's not an R36, it's still an R35. But if you look at it, it basically looks like Nissan got an aftermarket body kit and put it on there, which looks great to me. And the big benefit of that is staying with the same chassis that has been tested. You could grab that car in the very next month, dump like 50 grand or whatever, and like have a 1,000 horsepower car if you wanted, no problem. Where if you're kind of getting into a whole new chassis, that really complicates it. Just not so much for the hardware side of things, but more for the software side of things. Like we have a friend that has a C8 and he's had a lot of issues because of that.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, because on these new PCMs that they're coming out with, they're kind of like your phone, and they update like
constantly.
Probably every day or every few days, and they have to have that connectivity. So if you write a program into it and then they come in, hit it, and then it just wipes everything that you've done to set it up for what you have done to the car, it's going to be hard to keep up with, and they've not. And I mean, everything's going this way to keep you from, messing with your car.
Basically, apparently, they're making it so that about once a week or so, GM is sending a new signal that is like scrambled up or whatever with like all new code. So let's say that you worked on a tune for a while and you got it all ready, and then you go and put it in there. By the time you get it ready to your clients, it's a whole new computer basically.
And I mean, it's just a whole different game than it used to be, and everybody's going to this, so, and everything's going EV. So I think they couldn't make the R36 that they wanted, so it was just kind of like,
just a stopgap between this and when they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, say what you will about that chassis, but it's been proven, and it's great. Like I was telling him, it almost doesn't make sense where if you look at this thing, it's just like this brick. It's not. It doesn't look like it's aerodynamic, but it actually is if you look at the
coefficient.
Right. And there's very few cars that will give you what this car can do, which is, being a good daily and being able to do highway pulls, and being able to do good back road driving and all that while being on a comfortable car.
Yeah. I mean, and it weighs a lot, so on paper it doesn't make sense.
No, it really doesn't.
but it performs, and it's really just a really solid car. I mean, because it's kind of the car you could get and then not have to do anything to besides like a good set of wheels.
And there's very few cars that I've personally been in that, like, I'm sure you get to like Lambos and stuff like that, like, they're a whole different ballgame. I haven't been into them, that feel comfortable at like really high speeds, like closer to the 200 mile per hour.
Yeah.
Where most other cars, like 100, 120, you could do more, but it starts to feel really sketchy. Where this thing is super planet.
Yeah.
Honestly, 150 miles per hour, this still feels like you're probably doing like 80. It's just it's so stable.
Yeah, and I think that might it's kind of like a drawback for it too, because then you have to go like so much faster,
right,
for it to feel sketchy.
Yeah, that is true.
Where like if you're in your Subaru, like you do 100 and it's like okay.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But another big thing is like the interior. There's basically two gens of this.
So this is a CBA.
The 09 and below, right?
Yeah, 09 to 11.
Okay.
And then in 12, they changed it to a DBA.
Gotcha.
That has, it has like a facelift on the bumper. They kind of like restructure some things, put the lights in, and then change that. And then 17, it had an interior update and a facelift.
So really, this is about the third facelift that they've had, if you kind of think about it.
Yeah.
And you could say they were just kind of milking it. But you kind of got to think about what this car was when it first came out. It was setting world records like at the Nürburgring and like everything else, and people just could not believe how fast it was.
I mean, and it really is. I mean, it's still like super impressive to today's standards.
How long did it come out?
09.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah, and then they've just improved on everything there, because on this one, like the turbo inlets go from like, it's like a step down, but on the new ones they just cut all that out, so that's the extra gains that you're getting.
Yeah, and I almost feel like that's something where Nissan has really listened, and because the very first couple they had good power, but weren't like that impressive in paper.
Yeah.
And you start seeing the new ones, there's almost like a 200 horsepower jump, right? Something like that?
Yeah, because this was 480, and then the new one is 565.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
The Nismo is 600. So, and I mean, realistically, this one, if you change the inlets out and put the same tune on
it, it'll be literally about the same thing.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, they really... They've made a design, and then they're just stepping the efficiency up of it, because I mean, and finding the less efficient points, but that just shows you what you can get out of just tweaking some things, which pretty much the aftermarket is what we're about, and making performance.
Yeah, and all this to say, like, this is all done fairly reliably. Like, you can have 600 horsepower, beat on it quite a bit, and you're not really gonna break anything.
Yeah.
The only downside of these is how expensive the transmission it is to build.
Right.
Because you can almost buy another car for the price of that. But every chassis has their pros and cons, and if you look at it like without being like too judgy, that being like really the only thing you have to like switch up, besides bolt-ons. It's not really that big of a deal.
No, and we've actually serviced one that had like 100,000 miles on it.
Oh wow!
And compression tested for the customer and everything.
That's great.
And at 100,000, and it wasn't the best taken care of, but the motor still compression checked.
That's great.
We had to set it up properly because they went to another place, and then actually put a good mapping on it. But I mean, at 100,000 miles, it was still like performing like it just rode off the showroom floor.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and he drove the crap out of it, like, because he dailied it. It was so I give it to him, because my 17, I was like, I just got it out on nice days and stuff, but he truly dailied it.
And that is the great thing about this car. Like, you totally could daily drive it, and you're not really missing anything, and comfort's there, and the auto and all that, which that's like a little bit of a downside if you're like a really big enthusiast. You want the manual, but if you're driving it every day, auto's the way.
Oh
and,
no!
And also if you're trying to go really fast, auto is also the way.
Yeah, you really don't miss the manual until you're not stuck in traffic.
Right.
But as soon as you're stuck in traffic and you're like, oh, DDC.
Yeah. But I mean, that being said, like, it's one of those transmissions that, like, when you do the downshift and everything, it feels good. Like, there's not like a huge amount of lag or anything like that. So,
and it's very responsive.
It's very responsive, and all the cars at that level, they're all that way. Like, nothing is manual.
Yeah, the only I wish they would update is when you do, because it has like an auto and a manual mode. I wish they would update where, because it's like my wife's Forester can do it, but this can't. So when you go to, like when you hit a paddle, it goes to manual, but it won't go back to auto.
Oh yeah, that would be annoying.
Yeah. So
little things like that.
You have to hit the shifter, but that's like first world problem.
Yeah. But it's like I said, even with as expensive as it is to build the trans and everything else, for the most part, everything else isn't outrageously priced.
No.
And if you look at the level of car that once you put a couple bolt-ons and stuff like that, this like goes against.
Right.
You're really like in against cars that are like double, even triple its price.
Yeah.
So for what it is, it's fairly cheap.
And the trans isn't as big of a problem because we've set up a 2009, which was like the trans problem, like problem because like it's like the first iteration, but and that customer ran the crap out of that car and never had a trans problem. It actually had a bell housing fail on him when he made about 850.
Wow.
But it didn't have a trans problem. So,
which in the grand scheme of things, if all you broke is a bell housing, that's pretty good.
yeah, especially I mean, because the transmission in them are about $20,000.
Wow.
So the bell housing, updated bell housing is like $2,400.
Yeah.
So and then the labor to swap it out. But so if you do own one, check your bell housing, like when you do oil changes and stuff, because if it gets too much play in it, it will come apart. But
so what would you have to do? Maybe like a little more pressure on the studs, or get studs?
It's got a bearing in the back of the because the way it works is it's got just like a flywheel that sends it to the back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That makes
the transmission's in the back of the car.
And that's another thing. Like that, this car is very balanced.
Right.
Like it really is like you could get into this car and honestly you could drive it completely stock and have a whole lot of fun.
I mean it runs like out of the box. It runs 10 seconds. So
yeah, I mean, you're good.
Yeah,
but you always want more.
Oh no, yeah. That's the problem because after you drive it, it just feels normal.
Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of our thoughts. Not the car that we wanted, but realistically, probably the car that we needed. And I got to give it to Nissan. They're one of the few car manufacturers that are coming out with new cars that are for enthusiasts.
Yes.
The GTR and the
Z.
400Z. They're great cars, and both great cars at like two different brackets of money.
Because
you really couldn't go wrong with it.
And I think the Z is like an extreme, like an enthusiast car that you would think like nobody would put out there because it's 400 horsepower manual rear wheel drive.
Yeah,
that
kind of if you're a car enthusiast, that's probably going to be one of the last like cars that give you that feeling.
Right.
That will come out. Even the new Supra, they finally came out with a manual, and they only did that because Nissan did theirs.
Yeah.
So you got it's just kind of funny.
Well, and they was going to make it limited to like 300 cars, and I guess since Nissan did what they did, they was like, no, it's just going to be an option.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, well, the Supra is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that is a whole other topic. But all this to say, Nissan's kind of getting a little bit of hate because they're kind of like recycling the same thing over.
Well,
but
I mean,
I think they're doing the right move.
Yeah, I mean, why would you reinvent the wheel? So, but I mean, it is, like I said, it's just such a good platform. Like, yes, it could have more power out of the box, but the aftermarket's there. So.
Oh yeah. So literally whatever you want to do, somebody's already done to the use.
Yeah, and that is the good thing with it sticking with everything, but like a facelift. Because the aftermarket support's already there.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like the Subarus. You got to wait, like especially for the 22 WRX, where it's got a new motor, so it's kind of taking time.
Whenever everybody wants the new thing, but when you realize that the new thing requires 5, possibly 10 years of R&D to really get it where the other thing was. You kind of like start appreciating the older ones.
Yeah, because then you can hop in it and do stuff.
Right, yeah.
Versus like just waiting for stuff to come out.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is the name of the game.
So. Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I think that's a pretty good interview or podcast or whatever about it.
But if you would like to see us talk about something, drop a comment below. Let us know your thoughts on the 24 GTR, the new facelift GTR. And then we'll go from there. But we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Peace.